It's Christine from CoinDesk reporting from Invest Asia in Singapore. I'm joined by CEO of Chainlink, Sergey Nazarov. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yeah.
So, before we get into the exciting new news you're going to be telling us about Chainlink, do you want to go over for our listeners who aren't really familiar with what blockchain oracles are and why they're important to the crypto space?
So oracles, or in our case, blockchain middleware, it's called Chainlink and we call them Chainlinks. Generally speaking, blockchain middleware oracles, what they do is they provide contracts access to events. There's all kinds of events data. Mm-hmm. There's market events related to price changes. There's IoT data about where goods are or the temperature of an event or the security of a system. There's all kinds of data about events. Mm-hmm. And that data about events is what a lot of contracts are written about. Mm-hmm. Now, most smart contracts today, the vast majority, are written about tokens. And the reason they're written about tokens is because of the lack of a good oracle mechanism.
The good middleware.
Right, middleware. You generally need middleware because the system doesn't do something. In this case, smart contracts, due to the way that they're secured, they can't talk to these events. The contract state is secured by the miners. So you wouldn't want one miner being responsible for triggering your contract with API data, because then they would have complete control over its outcome. And if you have thousands of miners, all of them going to ping one API introduces a security vulnerability, as well as a number of other big security issues. So the security model of how smart contract state is secured precludes the connectivity to weaker, less secure external systems. But those less secure external systems do house a lot of events data that you would want to write a contract about, that it goes beyond just token movement. What secure blockchain middleware does is it allows the contract to expand into the world of being written about events while maintaining its security.
Tethering it to the real world. That's what blockchain oracles do.
Right. I think you're putting it like in clearer terms. I think you're right. Tethering it to the real world.
Gotcha.
Both from the point of view of consuming events. And from the point of view of even the smart contract generating an event. So for example, if a smart contract wanted to send a bank payment, it would need to generate an event, and then it would also need to know that something like a bank payment was completed.
So now that we know what blockchain oracles are, what they do, and why they're important, let's talk about the commitment from Chainlink, newly announced today at Invest Asia, to launch 7 new reference datasets, public reference datasets for any user to use, incorporate into their smart contract. And tell me about the significance of this announcement and also the specific use case for it for decentralized financial applications such as Compound, or I think the second one was synthetics.
So what we're basically doing is we're taking categories of data that we know large groups of developers and dApps need.
Such as ETC to USD, BTC to USD.
Right, ETH to USD, BTC to USD,
ETH,
a whole bunch of different other data points.
Yeah, that you know are popular.
Right, that we've kind of reached a point in the space's development where we now know that we need to have a large amount of these data sets. And because we actually see people building markets around them. Whereas before this might have not been the case.
So kind of the popularity of decentralized finance has really given you guys a greater understanding of this is what.
It's shown a clear demand for a reference data set that's very secure. Right now, we can authoritatively say that we have the most decentralized, most Sybil resistant, most highly audited set of oracles. What we basically realized is that replicating that oracle network that's creating that ETH-USD price on chain can be expanded to many other data sets that people want to build markets around.
So tell me what the Compound and the synthetics applications were relying on. What price data feeds were they relying on before Chainlink?
So it's a whole mix of things, and with synthetics, there's an announcement that they're already integrating with us, and that's in process. With other folks like Compound, we're kind of hopeful that they'll see the value in this, and they'll want to use these types of data sets because.
Do you know what they're using now?
I think a lot of these different folks, they use a mix of things.
Okay.
Some of it is a closed source Oracle that maybe they've built themselves. But generally speaking, our point of view is that we want to contribute to any Oracle network because we have very high quality node operators that would be able to add more security to any Oracle network regardless of who's already feeding into it. And also it creates a diversity of clients where if you maybe have your own closed source software and then you have us also feeding data into your Oracles, your whatever aggregation you're doing, it's better to have multiple different clients, multiple different Oracles doing that.
So I think actually the two biggest features of Chainlink that have been reiterated by yourself and also of course from your team is decentralization and privacy. Two really big features of the Chainlink network. Do you want to talk about the latest innovation on the privacy side for Chainlink nodes that have been introduced through this academic paper on what's called mixicals? If I was a fifth grader, how would you explain mixical technology to me?
Let's do like I don't know, ninth grader. Or something.
Ninth grader?
10th grader, something. Somebody in high school. I don't know if I have the skills to explain this to somebody in fifth.
Try your best. I think you're going to do great.
Generally speaking, I think that the point of view to view the significance of something like privacy is we have our space is kind of split into two groups of types of technology. There's the public chains, which tend to win on network effects, where public chains generally lack some critical features is this privacy dimension. And that's why there's been the emergence of this private chain side of our space. You can use blockchains and smart contracts while maintaining a high degree of privacy. Now, if you're able to get the kind of value and the network size and the network effects of public environments, and you're able to give them privacy, along with some scalability and connectivity, that's like the best of all worlds. With the help of an Oracle, you can achieve a level of privacy in public environments.
I see. So enhancing privacy through oracles on public networks. That's
right.
Mixical technology.
Right, that's what Mixicals does. Only the people that know what the Oracle's doing know what's actually going on, and that also gives you a lot of capabilities around proving it to the relevant auditors or whoever you need to prove it to, without having to disclose it to the whole world.
Gotcha.
Which is actually how contracts work. Most contracts in the centralized digital state world, they don't have a very public nature to them, because if they did, it's very likely they wouldn't be able to exist, because the contracts could be traded against, the contracts could result in all kinds of other issues.
That's really interesting, and I think because we're at Invest Asia, I do also, outside of the technology and outside of this news announcement, I want to ask you an investor focused question, and a question focused on the Asia Pacific markets. So my first question on the investment side of things is, very recently VentureBeat had come out with a blog post in representing data from this blockchain analytics company called AnChain, and they had found evidence to support quite significant pump and dump activity with the Chainlink token, causing the value of the Chainlink token to drop significantly. And in the article, you had mentioned that price fluctuations with the Chainlink token are completely out of your hands, but I'm curious, is that concerning activity to you at all with this evidence?
Yeah, I mean, it's concerning, but the reality is that I think those are very harsh, hyperbolic terms, because I think from what I can tell, even from their analysis,
you've read it,
which I've briefly looked at, is which they don't mention certain things like this thing called the Coinbase effect. So there's a very common dynamic that actually has an industry name which we didn't come up with. For whatever reason, when you get listed on certain exchanges, there tends to be a price rise, then a gradual decline.
I see.
So their research doesn't mention the Coinbase effect, which I don't fully understand. But just to clarify what that is, that effect, if you assume that it's real, seems to make the largest contribution to their analysis.
So is Chainlink doing any investigations on their own into this recent activity? What do you think can be done, if at all, from the Chainlink side to protect investors on people who are holding Chainlink tokens from this kind of volatility?
So I think the nuance here is that like crypto markets and the companies that build technology are to a large degree separate. Like this Coinbase effect that I mentioned, like the token that was listed after us, it had the same dynamic.
Okay.
It was Tezos and it went up very fast and high, and now it's gradually getting reduced. Even just taking this example, we don't control when something gets listed on Coinbase. So we don't control this dynamic. It's not realistic for us to control this dynamic. It's not realistic for us to control it in a positive way or in a negative way, or we don't actually engage with exchanges at all. We don't respond to any of their queries. We don't interact with them at all. What we do is build this technology, and this technology, just like Ethereum, just like other systems, has a market associated with it, because it has a token that does key things like does staking.
So let's talk specifically more about markets, and this is the more Asia-Pacific, Asia-focused question from my side, and that's, do you see crypto markets in Asia being one of the most active in the world, and do you think that Chainlink is looking ahead to a greater focus or expansion into the Asia-Pacific market?
Depends what you mean by markets. If you mean by market being like a consumer of the technology we're making, then I think Asia is a huge market, because there's a tendency to adopt new technology very quickly. I mean, that's a big part of the reason that I'm here.
That you're here?
Like I'm physically here to
in Singapore.
Right, in Singapore, and then soon in China, and soon other places.
Oh, really? You're going to China as well?
Yeah. So we'll be at the Wangxing conference, and then we'll be at DevCon.
Gotcha.
So I think.
So you see a specific need for Chainlink products and a space that Chainlink could fulfill for the Asian audience, for the Asian markets.
We're interested at our company about enabling smart contracts to do very useful new categories of activity, such as decentralized finance, decentralized insurance, fraud-proof gaming, all these types of things. It doesn't super matter to me where people build that. If people start building that on the moon, I'll go to the moon, and I'll start giving them oracles so they can build it better. The reality is that
you're seeing it built here, which is why you're here in Singapore going to China.
Right, I'm seeing a lot of I see a lot of developers, and I also see a lot of contract dynamics that could really benefit. And I mean, we have a large and growing community here. Generally speaking, I think Asia Asia is really not the right term, but a lot of specific countries in Asia, China and Singapore, and a lot of these places are, starting to define what the world economy really looks like. And so, our industry also has a very global nature to it.
Sure,
It does.
Okay. Very true. Well, thank you so much, Sergey, for speaking with me and
my pleasure.
for coming to Invest Asia all the way in Singapore. And I wish you the best with your future travel.
Great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.